my name's Emily Nicole Roberts. I'm 23 and I've got cerebral palsy, which means that I use a wheelchair.
What does International Day of Disabled Persons 2021 mean to you, and what are you doing for that day to celebrate?
So obviously that day, being a disabled person and identifying as somebody with a disability, that day is actually great because in my eyes, it actually encourages people with disabilities to embrace themselves and to, just to be proud of who they are, whether they're disabled or not. And also, I hope that it'll bring a little bit of education to people that maybe aren't disabled, who may think, oh, what is this day all about? And then look into it and then, I don't know, maybe learn a bit more about it.
Told me a little bit about yourself, that you have cerebral palsy, but can you tell me what you do day to day?
Yeah, of course. So mainly my advocacy to do with disability and to do with obviously raising awareness of my situation, it comes about because I make YouTube videos and little vlogs. I show people how I do certain things. It's very can-do focused because I think that's really important. I think it's important that people see what we are able to do as opposed to maybe the stereotype that we're not able to do a lot. So I kind of flipped that approach on his head and thought, no, I'm not going to show people maybe what I can't do or, maybe what they think I struggle with. Instead, I'm going to try and empower people and say, look at all these amazing things I can do. That's why my YouTube channel was born. I started a series called How Emily, and it's basically just how I do day-to-day things to try and help people with disabilities who may be growing up and maybe want to try and learn different things like getting dressed, or if they can get a job, or if they can exercise, but also encouraging and educating people about disabilities to maybe understand that they're not as disabling as they may seem.
Yeah, and that I think shows as well that that it's mainly the social model that people need to focus on with that, because I've watched the YouTube videos and I love them, and I think that why wasn't there something out there like that for me when I was growing up, and I think that it's really good what you're doing, because you're making the younger generation wanting to learn and wanting to be activists, but also realizing what they can achieve. Because you're right, like I bet most of your viewers, correct me if I'm wrong, most of your viewers is probably parents that have never had a disabled child before, because that's what my mum was looking at. My mum was always looking at videos that can help her understand disability more as well.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Josh. The amount of messages I get from people who say, oh, my child's just been diagnosed with CP. I didn't know what to expect. Watching your videos has made me understand that they're going to have a fulfilling life and things like that. Because obviously, a diagnosis is difficult to understand in itself. But like you said, it's so important that I show people that their potential is endless, regardless of how they may, what diagnosis they may have or any extra needs they may have. That doesn't mean they're not going to go on to live a great life and achieve amazing things and be independent.
Yeah, and from what I can see, that you get really good feedback, and you've achieved a lot of things, especially with the prime minister. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, so last year it was like a really nuts, like in the middle of lockdown. Obviously, I had loads more extra time, so I was making more videos and I was really focused on making sure that I was putting content out there, both to make people feel good about themselves, but also because obviously, like I was in lockdown and I found myself, having all this extra time. So I had an email, and first of all, Josh, I thought it was a joke. It was like, oh, hi, I'm emailing you from the government. And I was thinking, yeah, of course you are. But yeah, the email was like, we've noticed what you're doing and we watch your videos, we've seen, the changes you're making. And and we'd like to award you a Point of Lights award. Now, what a Point of Light award is, if people listening or watching this don't know, it's basically an award for people in the community and for people on the internet and stuff. They get recognised by the government and by the Prime Minister, and then as a little thank you, he sends out like a little certificate and you get your own number and things like that. So yeah, that was great. But he actually wanted to Zoom call me and a couple of other Welsh winners with the Secretary of State. So yeah, that was pretty nuts. I mean, I love a good Zoom, but one with the Prime Minister, like I was sweating. I was like, oh my God, don't say something wrong.
I don't think I would know what to do if I've seen the Prime Minister for either face to face or on Zoom. So yeah, and I think that it's very good to show people what you're doing and what you're achieving, not just for people in Wales, but for people all around.
If you've got an interest, if my content is relevant and relatable to you, watch it. I should put subtitles on because I do feel like how strong my accent is. People sometimes may watch from other countries and be like, what did she say? But yeah, I don't mind who watches. It's just if I know that my content can touch people and can, change people's lives. Like I say, my cheesy tagline is, I want to change lives by filming mine. It doesn't matter if your cousin's in a wheelchair or if there's somebody in your school class or if, I don't know, it doesn't matter. As long as you can watch my content and I can make you laugh or make you smile or even teach someone how I put my socks on, it's all the same to me because it's hopefully helping them in some way.
Yeah. Well, if it's helping one, I've always said that if it's helping one person or two people, then that's great. But I could see that you're helping a lot of people, which is fantastic. What are the biggest barriers that you have faced as a disabled person, and what does it mean to you the Welsh government, if the Welsh government puts in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Disabled People into Welsh legislation?
I think, access is always a huge one. I think there's so many different facets to access as well. But I think, just the fact of making everyday life experiences accessible to disabled people, like I always say, we're exactly the same as those without conditions. We want to live the same life. We want to have equal opportunities, be that in employment, be that in education, or be that just in our day-to-day activities. I think there's so much that can be done, and that's sometimes why it's obviously seen as such a huge task. But yeah, just the right to live, really. It sounds really, really complicated, but just the right to be able to go down the street. Just that. I mean, sometimes villages where you live or town centres may not even be accessible to you, and it's just like, I can't even get around. Throw into the mix then wanting to socialise, wanting to work, and it's just so many different things. But I think if people like you and me, because you're a huge advocate as well, I've got to throw that out there, and the work you do is amazing. But people like you and me, the fact that we put ourselves out there online and generally to just say, hey, here I am, look at me, I'm awesome, but I've also got a disability. These are what I can't do. Can you please help change that? I think it's so important that we remember that we have a huge voice. But it's just unfortunate that disabled people have constantly got to get themselves heard. Like, for example, in the COP26, the Israeli minister who couldn't even get in the building to do her job. It's just like, really, people, what year are we living in? You know what I mean? She was completely qualified to be there. The only thing stopping her was she couldn't get through the door. It's shocking, to be honest. It is shocking. But unfortunately, she had to go through that process for the UN then to think, oh, well, this needs changing. So yeah, we've constantly got to have people like you and me who are trailing and saying, well, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right. And it's a shame because it makes us look like moaners. and it makes us look like we're always in a mood or we're always complaining. But in reality, we're not, because we just want to have the same opportunities as other people around us.
But yeah, can you say your YouTube channel? Did
Oh yeah, of
you say
course.
that?
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is just my name. It's Emily Nicole Roberts. If anybody wants to check it out, you can. Some content is a little bit sillier than others. But yeah, the How Emily series is basically the little vlogs I mentioned, which show how I do certain things. As also quickly, I will mention, if anybody's got any suggestions, I'm very watcher led. So some people ask me for certain vids, and then if I can do them, I will. Thank you so much to yourself and Leonard Cheshire for letting me speak today. And I hope that I covered all your questions. And yeah, while I've got the chance, I just wanted to say thank you to you, Josh, for everything you do. And you're like me, you know, you make amazing content online. I mean, you've talked about my content, but I think your content is even more trailblazing as well. So yeah, thank you.